This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, website, or online store, make it with Squarespace. What's up YouTube, Saf here on Super Saf TV, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you my experience of using the iPhone 10 for around about a month now, although most people tend to call it iPhone X. The ones I speak to anyway. Now, I'm not going to be going over any specs or anything like that because if you're watching this video, you probably already know all the specs. If not, then check out my unboxing video in which I go over everything in detail. In this video, I'm simply going to be sharing with you my experience in terms of what I like about the iPhone 10, what I don't like about it, and what can hopefully be improved for the next version. Now, to begin with, a lot of you guys already know that I'm primarily an Android user, but I always do have an iPhone with me, and I have had for quite a few years now. And I've not liked an iPhone as much as I like the iPhone 10 for a very long time. And the main reason for that has been all the iPhones have looked pretty much the same over the past few years. I mean, let's be honest, look at the iPhone 6, the 6S, the 7, and even the 8. They look practically the same. There's very minor design changes between them. And me personally, I was getting very bored of that design. So it's great that Apple have finally updated this. And I really like the new design of the iPhone 10. First and foremost, we have minimal bezels, which allows us to have a larger display in a relatively small form factor. And this display is absolutely great. It's the best display on any iPhone, and I'm so glad Apple went with an OLED display. The colors are more vibrant, the contrast ratio is so much better compared to previous iPhones. And yes, I know a lot of you are going to joke that good job Samsung, and that's true. Samsung have done a really good job on this, and I'm so glad Apple went with Samsung. Let's be honest, Samsung do make the best displays out there, so the fact that Apple have gone with Samsung for this display is a good thing for everybody. Now, this is also a true tone display, so that means that it's going to adapt the white balance depending on where you are. I switched this off because everything just looked too yellow for my eyes, and I do switch on a night shift when I'm in the dark, but I don't use True Tone. Now, one thing that a lot of people have been complaining about when it comes to the iPhone 10 display is this infamous notch. Personally, I don't mind it too much. In my opinion, it gives the iPhone a very unique look. Like when you see this, it's easily identifiable and it makes it stand out from the crowd. This is an iPhone, and Apple have really owned this notch. Could it be better utilized with software? Yes. Are Apple going to really do much about it? Probably not. And after a bit, you kind of get used to it. And the only time you're probably going to have an issue with this is when you're watching videos in full screen mode. Now, here's the thing. Most videos out there are still in 16:9. I mean, I'd say the majority of videos online are in 16:9. And if you do go full screen, then you're going to be losing a bit on the top and bottom of your video. And sometimes that can be a little bit annoying because people's heads get cut off and things. So most of the time when I'm watching a video, it is still in 16:9, and that does result in black bars on the left and right. But I've said this before, on a previous iPhone, those black bars would have been there anyway, but they would have been there in the form of bezels. Yes, it's not ideal and it's not the best use of this full screen, but most people use the device in portrait orientation anyway, and if you are mostly using your device in portrait orientation, unless you're watching a video, then the notch is going to be okay for most people, I think. Now, we don't have a headphone jack on the iPhone 10. This was not a surprise to anyone because we didn't have it last year. However, we do have some good speakers on here. I'm glad that we've still got stereo speakers. Yes, they don't sound as good as front-firing speakers, but they still sound really good. Now, let's talk about Face ID. I was initially quite negative about Face ID, but I've actually grown to like it quite a bit. It's super fast and it just works. So just showing you there how quick it was. Very quick and easy to use, but it's not ideal. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I still think that a fingerprint scanner here on the Apple logo, in addition to Face ID, would have been really useful. So let me give you an example. I personally check out my phone a lot when I'm in bed, right? Some of the times I just want to pick up my phone, maybe just respond to a quick message or kind of delay the alarm a little bit or something like that. And previously using Touch ID, that was really quick and easy to do. With Face ID, if my face is halfway sunken into the pillow, then Face ID is not going to work. And then I'm going to have to kind of take my face out of the pillow to unlock it. And I don't really want to be doing that when I'm half asleep. And this is something that is definitely quite inconvenient. I couldn't unlock this with my sunglasses before as well. There is a solution to that, which I've covered in a previous video. So Face ID is really good, but personally speaking, if I was given the option of Face ID or a fingerprint scan on the back, I would always choose the fingerprint scanner on the back. Maybe that's just me, but I just think a fingerprint scanner would be much more convenient and easy to use. Now, another thing that supposedly came with Face ID, which kind of isn't, is Animoji. So It looks like Animoji primarily uses the front-facing camera, not the Face ID sensors, because if you cover them up, Animoji still works, and Animoji doesn't work in the dark either, which once again suggests that it is using primarily the front-facing camera. Maybe some of the sensors are being used a little bit to make it a little bit better, I don't know. But anyway, when it comes to Animojis, I used them for the first day, and then I've not really used them since. Yes, it was a little bit of fun, and lots of people had a lot of fun with it. And call me boring, call me old, whatever. I just didn't find myself using Animoji again. It was one of those things where the novelty really quickly wore off. If you're into that kind of thing, then hey, if you want to become a monkey or some poo, then that's all up to you. Personally speaking, yes, it's a fun feature to have, but the novelty wore off very, very quickly. Now, one question that a lot of people ask me is, do I miss the home button? And the answer to that is, no, I really don't miss the home button. It's really quick and easy just to swipe up, and it's a very natural gesture as well. So when you're in an app and everything, then it is really quick to do that. There is some situations where it's longer. So say, for example, when I go into my recent apps, before I could just, close these, but now I have to press and hold before I can close them. And it's just an additional step, which, I don't really want. Now, I think what would have been nice is if they utilize the 3D touch display to maybe have a home button area. This is something that we've got on the Samsung Galaxy S8. I'm not sure why Apple didn't utilize 3D touch in this way. Again, not the biggest of deals, and I think most people will get used to it after a couple of days. Another thing I really like about the iPhone is how just smooth and quick it is, and that's thanks to the Apple A11 Bionic chip. Games load up really fast, faster than most of the devices out there. But multitasking isn't as good as it used to be. I'm assuming that's down to iOS 11 and not being optimized, although it should have been optimized now because iOS 11 has been out for some time now. Hopefully this will improve with time. And I've had a few app crashes, in particular in Instagram stories, where things just kind of tend to freeze. But generally speaking, the experience has been good overall. Now let's talk about what probably my favorite feature of the iPhone is, and that is this dual rear-facing camera. You guys may have already seen some of the super soft style camera comparisons that I've done on the channel, and in my opinion, the iPhone X has one of the best rear-facing camera setups on any smartphone right now. It has great dynamic range, and in some situations, not all, some situations, I know some people are going to hate on me for saying this, the dynamic range I found was actually better than the Pixel 2 XL. The portrait mode as well works really well on this, and if you're somebody who takes lots of pictures from the rear-facing camera, you're absolutely going to love the iPhone X, no doubt. And it shoots some great quality video as well, at up to 4K 60 frames a second. But not only that, it also shoots at 24 and 30 frames a second as well. This is something that we don't really find on many of the devices. They just have 4K 30 frames a second, that's it. You can't really choose different frame rates. Me personally, I like shooting at 24 frames a second. I just prefer that frame rate. And I can use that on the iPhone X. I can't use that on lots of other devices out there. Now the only issue with the different frame rates is that you can't change them within the camera app itself. You need to go all the way deep within the settings to be able to change these, which is really needless, and it should be within the camera app. But overall, the rear-facing cameras are absolutely great. Now, unfortunately, the same cannot be said for the front-facing camera. The best way I can describe the front-facing camera on the iPhone X, like I've described on previous iPhones as well, is that it's inconsistent. It tends to overexpose a lot, and there's so many times where things are absolutely blown out. And sometimes it actually will work okay, but most of the times, in my experience, it does overexpose the hell out of things. And I'm not the only one that's experienced this. A lot of other people do agree with me as well. And portrait mode from the front-facing camera, I don't really use it anymore because right now it is that bad. It just kind of blurs out the ears and especially the sides of my beard. If you like portrait mode from a front-facing camera, get the Pixel 2 or Pixel 2 XL. That does the best. Hopefully the portrait mode will improve with software, however. But when it comes to the front-facing camera in general, this is something that I've noticed on many iPhones before. I'm not sure why they overexpose so much, and I really wish that Apple applied the same sort of magic that they're using on the rear-facing camera on the front-facing camera when it comes to dynamic range, and that would make it so much better. One of the things I don't like about recording on the iPhone is the audio. Now, we still don't have stereo audio recording on the iPhone. This is really something that we should have in 2017. And it's something that we have on many of the devices. You'll see in some of my camera comparisons where I have a side-by-side with a smartphone that has stereo audio recording, and that just sounds so much better. So audio recording on the iPhone 10 when it comes to video is okay, but it's not great. Now, we briefly touched on iOS 11 earlier on in the video, and iOS 11 is generally okay, but it is still basic for me. I like the control center, but the notifications annoy the absolute hell out of me. I don't know why Apple do this, but just look at this. I've got just Twitter notifications, which I left on for this demo, and it's crazy. Like, my whole notifications have been taken over just over the past few hours, and I really wish that Apple grouped these notifications together like we have on Android. Just copy Android. I know a lot of you guys are going to say, hey, Saf, you're just an Android fanboy, but honestly, I've spoken to so many Apple users as well, and they've also said that it'd be so much nicer if Apple just grouped all of these notifications together, and then you can expand those and see those more in detail if you want. But just look at that, this is crazy. It's just unusable for me. Are Apple going to do anything about it anytime soon? Probably not, but it's just something that I definitely need to address. Now, battery life for me on the iPhone 10 has actually been really good, and I think it's going to get most people through the day without any issues. And you also have wireless charging as well as fast charging this time. Now, I personally don't use wireless charging much, I'll be completely honest, but fast charging is something that I have been using for quite a few years now, and I was so glad that the iPhone 10 had fast charging. The biggest issue here is, and this is something that I've ranted about before in this video, and that is that you need to buy the fast charger separately, and that costs £74 in the UK, which is absolutely insane. You can get smartphones for £74 these days. Every other manufacturer includes fast charging out of the box. Apple does not, and they charge you a very big premium for that as well. And that's on top of what you're already paying for the iPhone 10. And as you guys know, it's not cheap. You're looking at $1,000 or £1,000. This, once again, doesn't make any sense to me because $1,000 plus taxes still does not equal £1,000. It should be around about the £900 mark. And this pricing difference is reflected on pretty much every other device out there. Let's take the Samsung Galaxy Note 8, for example. It's $950 in the US. In the UK, it's £870. That is reflected in the price because the pound is stronger than the dollar. But for some reason, Apple have decided that unless you're in the US, you're going to be paying even more for the iPhone 10. And I really think that's unfair. So yes, you guys already knew that the iPhone 10 is expensive. Is it worth the £1,000 or $1,000 price point? Personally, in my opinion, I'm going to be completely honest, I don't think it's worth this price. Why is that? It's because there's lots of other devices out there which offer lots of great features, some actually better than this, for almost half the price. Let's take the Samsung Galaxy S8 for example. It's been widely praised across the board, and that currently is for about £550 on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description below. And the OnePlus 5T, which just came out recently, is £450. So you could buy two OnePlus 5Ts and have £100 spare compared to the iPhone 10. Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to say, no, Saf, you're just being really biased towards Android here, but I'm just being realistic here in terms of what you can get and what else is out there. Now, if you're part of the Apple ecosystem and you want the best iPhone money can buy, then this is the one to go for. This is the best iPhone you can buy, and it's my favorite iPhone so far. I really do like it overall. But if this is out of your budget, and I know a lot of people for which this will be out of their budget, then I would definitely advise looking around because there's so many other good options out there right now. That's what I think anyway. I know some of you guys are going to disagree with me. Once again, I do really like the iPhone 10. I just think it's too expensive for what you're getting. What do you guys think of the iPhone 10? Definitely drop me a comment below and let me know. Now, as mentioned towards the start, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. If you want to build a professional website quickly and easily, then Squarespace is the place to go. They've got a great all-in-one platform and you don't need any previous coding or web design experience. You can simply use one of their many templates as a starting point and then expand on it with their very easy to use interface. And if you do get stuck, they've got awesome 24/7 customer support. Now, I've built my own website using Squarespace and you can check that out for inspiration. If you want to build your own website, then go to squarespace.com/supersaf or follow the link in the description below. And that's going to give you a free trial and you can also get 10% off your first domain or website order. That's it from me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then please do hit that thumbs up button for me. It really does help me out. And if you haven't already, then be sure to subscribe and switch on notifications. We've got lots more content coming up on here. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on Super Saf TV. I'll see you next time.